how did you first get into politics, and how did you know it was where you wanted to be?
Oh, crikey. No one in my family's political in the sense that I am. They follow politics, some of them, not particularly well, and certainly no grandparents or anything were ever involved in politics. Someone asked me this a few weeks ago actually, and I'd probably put it down to I'm the youngest of 4 kids. I've got 3 older siblings, and I'm ginger, so I always felt life was very unfair. And I always used to say that I'm the only ginger one, by the way. I always used to say to my mum when something would happen, it's not fair, and she always used to say to me, well, life's not fair. So I always used to say, well, it could be a bit fairer. And that, take out the humour, sort of sums up why I ever got involved in politics, because there are many things that should be a lot fairer that aren't a lot fairer, and could certainly be made a lot fairer, whether that's locally or just politics in general. It should be about helping people, giving people the opportunity to do things, and that's probably what inspired me to get into it. So God knows when I did, but it feels like a very long time now, but clearly it hasn't been.
Okay. Compared to other people that in the same industry, you're quite young. Was there any, when you were first getting into it, did you have any doubts, or because other people your age probably wouldn't be interested in politics, not to make assumptions?
No, you're absolutely right. I think everyone to an extent is interested in politics. I don't think there's many people in the country, whatever age. I could mention the name Boris Johnson, I wouldn't know who he was. So having said that, I get the point you're making. I think I never saw age as a part of it, but there are probably assertions people make that you're young, inexperienced, don't understand life, don't understand how to help people and things like that. But I very much take the view that politics is about action, not about words. So it doesn't matter what age you are, if you can deliver, that's what people should be interested in. And hopefully in the next few years you will see whether I have delivered or not. So that should be the drive. That it is probably seen as a older, still male dominated culture, which has got to change and is changing, massively changing. We've had 2 female prime ministers, where we may very shortly have a 3rd, and that is a good step, but there's an long way to go. So I think there is a lot more to do to get young people involved in politics, and you can from all ages. I had letters today from school kids about pedestrian crossing. That is young people being engaged in politics. Now we've just got to get more of them into this place, so we can knock this place in shape.
So I believe you didn't go to university, so what did you do instead, and to get you to here?
So again, I probably a similar time to my interest in politics. Youngest of 4, my brother is the eldest. When he was 18, my parents didn't go to university, but they thought that was the best thing they could do for their kids, so put an awful lot of effort into getting my brother into university, and subsequently my 2 sisters, all of whom had different experiences, but I decided by the time I was sort of 17, 18 that I really didn't want to go. Having said that, I remember very clearly being at college, and I don't know, it's still the same, but UCAS applications being stuffed down your throat, and all these universities talking to you and God knows what else. And the problem I had was that's the only thing that was presented to me. It's the only thing I knew you could do. I honestly didn't know that an apprenticeship was an option. No one ever talked to me about it. And I remember having a form tutor, because all I cared about I can't tell you everything I cared about at the time, but I played a lot of rugby, and I cared far more about that at the time than probably many other things. My rugby coach saying to me at college, well, you've got to do something. It's like when you go to a family party and there's an auntie there or something you don't see for years, and then they say, what are you doing now? And you've got to try and explain to them, they never understand. He said, well, what are you going to do? You've got to do something. And it was him actually who convinced me, basically. I said I didn't want to go to university, and he said, that's fine. And I was honestly, I remember it so clearly, I was absolutely gobsmacked. that was sort of accepted. And then from then, again, the only thing I knew was I didn't want to go to university, so where do I go from there? By complete chance, I fell on my feet, as it were, and ended up actually getting an apprenticeship with Harlow's MP, Rob Halfon, again through sort of complete chance. But when he offered it to me, I remember walking out of his office in the House of Commons and thinking, how on earth can you do an apprenticeship in Parliament? You know, like the electricity looks fine, the plumbing looks fine, that's all I thought apprenticeships were. So it was, I genuinely didn't, you know, I just accepted this thing, walked out, didn't have a clue what I was doing. But changed my life, genuinely changed my life. And people say that a lot, but it really did. Amazing company. I did my apprenticeship with, coincidentally owned by Tony Blair's eldest son. So you had Tony Blair Ramming University and Ewan Blair Ramming apprenticeships, but the landscape has changed. Even the time I've done it, I'm 22 now, even those 4 years has changed dramatically. In that you can now do apprenticeship, you can become a lawyer through apprenticeships, accountant. There is pretty much no job in the world now that you can't do. And the last thing I'd say is, when I was doing my apprenticeship, I met at the time, I won't say which bank, but it was the CEO of a bank. And he said to me about an event it was, I don't socialise these people, and he asked me what I was doing, and I said an apprenticeship, and he said, that's very interesting. He said, at this bank, and this is one of the biggest banks in the UK, he said, we've just scrapped our graduate scheme. He said, because we had degree apprentices who start with us at 18, we pay them a wage, they have no debt, we pay all of their student fees, they get the same qualifications, they're trained in the job we want them to do. So they finish their degree at 21 or 22 or whatever, and they're ready to go. They're flying through, they're getting promotions in the company and everything, and they're very loyal because we've paid their wages and paid their fees, so they got no debt and a good wage. Said, and at the same point we had graduates coming in who hadn't been trained in our company, had massive student debts to pay, had no loyalty to us, and were basically at the same time, what he said to me was they didn't even know where the toilets were. So it made absolutely no sense for us to be doing that. So I would advocate to everyone and anyone to do an apprenticeship. And that's not knocking universities, by the way. You know, people have amazing experiences at universities, but I would definitely advocate an apprenticeship.
Just one last question. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years, and how do you see yourself impacting Harlow?
Well, we have an awful lot to do, and there's no way of understating that, essentially. We've got an enormous programme in the town. We've got to rebuild the town centre, number one. That's the biggest priority I've got at the moment. We've got to build hundreds, if not thousands, of new council homes for Harlow families. We've got a massive issue with council waiting lists, young people not being able to get their own home, and we've got to tackle that. We've got massive priority in terms of renewal and the estates around Harlow and restoring pride in those, and all the other wonderful things like new hospital, the move of the UKHSA to Harlow, and lots of other things. And it's very easy often for me to say those things and understate what it takes to deliver those. You know, there are not many towns in the country, in fact I could list them on one hand, that have rebuilt their town centre. It's not an easy thing to do at all. There's massive challenges, but what they are as challenges, they're not excuses for not doing it. They're challenges you have to overcome. So I see myself for as long as I can possibly see at the moment, spending all my time and energy delivering those things, because that's what we've promised people. Mm-hmm. That's what I've stood up and said I'd do, and that's what people voted for us to do. And you asked at the start about young people's engagement in politics and so on. I think that's the most crucial point. Is it doesn't matter whether you're young or old or from whatever culture, religion, anything. The only thing that will inspire people to engage in politics and to have confidence in politics is if you deliver. If you actually deliver what you promised people you would, you will keep people engaged. I could name things from all across the political spectrums, ages, so on. So you ask about young people, one of the biggest fundamental issues in this town for teenagers, young adults and so on, is there's no nightlife. There's a fantastic exhibition at the moment at the museum, 75 years Harlow music. There's no live music venue in this town at the moment. I promised people when I was elected we would build a new live music venue. 2 weeks ago we unveiled the plans to do that. When it's built, that is the only way you inspire people to stay engaged in politics and to engage in it at all, because there's people who will use that live music venue who probably have very bad, and understandably so, views on politicians. But if you can do that and deliver on the things you said, they will be far more confident about it. So all of my time, for as long as I can possibly see at the moment, will be spent on doing those things.